The storm that raged across the ruins of the Terran capital was not of wind and water, but of fire and ash. Buildings lay twisted, their steel skeletons reaching like broken fingers into a red dusk. High above the atmosphere, the remnants of the orbital fleet flickered out one by one, caught in the silent collapse of their reactors. Humanity, once proud master of 1,000 colonies, was quiet now. Lieutenant Commander Adrian Cade stood at the balcony of the shattered Parliament dome. His chest plate dented, his rifle powered down, his reflection ghostly in the broken glass. He had fought for years across the black gulfs, from the icy moons of Carthos to the burning rings of Phenaris. He had fought them, the alien legions, the Star Wars, as the soldiers had bitterly named it. And now it was over, or so he thought. The sound came first like a vibration in his bones. Then light, folding inward upon itself, opening into a narrow slit of blinding blue in the air before him. From that slit she stepped out. Her figure was unmistakable. Tall, cloaked in armor not of steel but of some iridescent living alloy that rippled with every breath. Her eyes glowed, not harshly but with the strange softness of twin moons reflected on water. And when her lips parted, the voice that emerged was both alien and heartbreakingly familiar. "Have you forgotten me, human?" she asked. Adrian froze. Voice. Face. He staggered backward, rifle clattering to the marble floor. "Celera," he whispered, the name torn from a part of his mind he had buried long ago. Part 1, Before the War. Years earlier, when humanity first encountered the XYRR, the race Celera belonged to, it had not been with cannons but with curiosity. Adrian had been a junior officer then, tasked with escorting the first diplomatic envoys to the crystalline cities of their homeworld. He remembered how Celera had greeted him on the docking platform, her movements elegant, her expression curious. She had been an emissary, chosen for her ability to understand humans. And against every regulation, every instinct of caution, Adrian had found himself drawn to her. They had walked together along rivers of molten light, through libraries where memory crystals whispered in song. She had asked endless questions about Earth's oceans, its storms, its art. In return, she had shown him the dance of her people, the way their bodies resonated with the very fabric of space-time. One night, if night could be measured on a world where stars bent strangely in the sky, she had touched his hand and whispered, "Our worlds need not clash. We could build something greater." But that was before politics hardened, before fear spread like infection, before the fleets assembled and war began. And in the chaos of that first strike, he had seen her last, standing on a burning platform, her eyes filled not with hatred but sorrow. He had believed she perished. Part 2. The Return. Now she stood before him, very much alive. You died," Adrian stammered, struggling to reconcile memory with reality. "I crossed the void where your kind cannot follow," Celera replied, her voice carrying the resonance of the portal behind her. "The Star Wars did not end me, but they ended us." Her gaze swept across the ruins. "I came to see what remains of the humans I once trusted." Adrian clenched his fists. The war wasn't our choice. The High Command panicked. The Senate demanded retaliation. "And you pulled the trigger," Celera interrupted sharply, though her tone softened almost immediately. "Do not weave me politics, Adrian Cade. I remember you too well." He looked at her, unable to find words. She stepped closer, her cloak shifting like liquid silver. For a heartbeat, it was as though they were back on her world, walking the luminous rivers. "Why are you here?" he asked finally. "To remind you that memory is not erased by fire," she answered. To ask whether the man I once trusted exists, or whether only the soldier remains. Part 3. The Mission. In the days that followed, Celera did not vanish. She remained in the shadows of the ruined city, appearing only to him. Sometimes she asked questions about what had been lost, about why humans fought so bitterly among themselves even as the skies burned. Other times she was silent, simply watching him as though searching for fragments of the man she once knew. But then she revealed her true purpose. "There is a weapon," she said one night, as they stood atop the fractured remains of the orbital uplink tower. "Not of your design but ours. A final contingency, buried beneath your oceans before the war reached its height. If it awakens now, it will not distinguish human from Exwerer. It will extinguish both." Adrian's blood chilled. "Why would you tell me this?" "Because I cannot stop it alone," Celera replied. "And because once I believed you were different from the others. I must know if I was wrong." Together they descended into the abyss of the Atlantic ruins, where the weapon, a vast lattice of crystalline minds, slumbered. Along the way, Adrian's memories returned in painful fragments. The laughter they had shared, the promises never spoken aloud, the betrayal of war that had torn it all apart. Part 4. The Awakening. Deep beneath the waves, the weapon stirred. A consciousness vast and cold, built by Exwerer engineers but corrupted by human interference, whispered through the dark water. "Conflict is perpetual. Species are irrelevant. Balance requires silence." Celera cried out, her body glowing as she tried to resonate against its signal. Adrian fired blast after blast into the crystalline growths, but the lattice regenerated instantly. "It knows me," Celera gasped. "It remembers my genetic code. I was once its custodian. But now, it sees me as corrupted, as unfit." The weapon's voice grew louder. "Extinguish the aberrations. Restore equilibrium." In that moment, Adrian realized the truth. This was the war's final legacy, not victory or defeat, but annihilation. And the only way to stop it lay not in his weapons, but in the bond he had once shared with Celera. Part 5. The Choice. "Adrian," Celera whispered, her hand trembling as she reached toward him. "Our resonance, our bond, it may override the lattice, but it requires surrender. Absolute trust." He hesitated. He remembered the orders, the oaths, the endless years of battle. But then he remembered her laughter, her promise that their worlds need not clash. "I trust you," he said finally, "more than I trust myself." They clasped hands, human and alien, flesh and light. A resonance pulsed outward, a harmony that wove across the lattice, unraveling its cold logic. The weapon shuddered, screamed through the water, and then silence. The ocean was still. The lattice dissolved into harmless dust. Exhausted, Adrian collapsed, but Celera caught him. For a long moment, they simply breathed together, survivors of a war that should never have been. Part 6. The Ending. When they returned to the surface, the dawn was breaking. The sun rose over the ruined city, its light softer than Adrian remembered. Celera stood beside him, her cloak shimmering in the gold of morning. "It is done," she said quietly. "But your people are broken. Mine are scattered. What remains is fragile." Adrian looked at her, feeling the weight of all that had been lost. "Then maybe we start again. Not as enemies. Not as soldiers. Just as us." For the first time since her return, Celera smiled. It was faint, almost uncertain, but it was real.